Hi, everybody. It's August 24th, 2016, and I have special guest Terral Blackstar, also known as Terral 03 on the internet. Hello, and welcome to our show.
Hello, Steve. Thank you for having me. I've looked at a lot of your videos.
Yes, and as you know, we're the bumbling RT bunkers of the Nibiru community, but at the same time, we have a lot of folks that, have joined our community and are anxious to get more information and more good scientific data. And that's why we're having you on today, because I believe you're one of those sources, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here and happy to help.
Right. So tell us a little bit about your background, how you came into this information, and a little bit about what Terral03.com is all about.
Okay, a little bit of my background. I actually quit high school. I got my GED and graduated early, got really bored with it. Dean's List students, all honors, and I just decided to start my life early. And then I got into the scripture investigation, which took decades, that consumed much of my life. I thought that's what I'll be doing right now. And then concluded that, wrote the book, The Mystery Explained in 2005, then got into the 9/11 investigation that took 5 years and wrote that book. You can see it, if you can see my screen here, then that's the 9/11 Truth, Exposing the Cheney Rumsfeld Black Operation. That's at the bottom of the 9/11 Inside Job section at terral03.com. This is my website. And the book down here, The Mystery Explained, that is the culmination of decades of research. There's a 2-hour radio show on that here. There's a 2-hour radio show on the 9/11 Inside Job. And then this section is under development, Project Blackstar. What happened was that early on in this investigation, then I was exposed to Jim Marrs, the guy that wrote JFK, and he sent me the Dakota report that was very difficult for people to even find. He sent it to me for vetting, and I wrote a report on it. It is in the Dropbox folder for all my subscribers, and it mentioned Project Blackstar, and we'd been tracking this heavy mass object since Elenin passed by, made a lot of mistakes with the Elenin run, and the seismic pattern continues. And then I realized, after reading the Dakota report and the references to Project Blackstar, that this thing is the Black Star that we are tracking in space. So one of my gifts is keyword analysis of documentation, like scripture, knowing where the words are, knowing where they don't appear, and keywording scripture and solving that riddle helped me in doing the same thing, processing the data from the 9/11 Commission report, the Arlington County After Action report, the FAA information, all the documentation relating to 9/11 Inside Job prove that this was definitely an inside job. Then, after completing this book, then the information about Elenin came out. Elenin backwards is 9/11. Its perihelion date, when it was nearest the sun, maximum velocity, was 9/11, 2011, 10 years to the day after the 9/11 attacks. Then I ran across the work of Minster Armour Bosich, in his paper, the +6 seismicity paper to Cornell, April 11, 2011, and he tracked the seismic pattern that I'm still tracking now back to 1965. So I knew that there was something going on there. Elenin passed by. We were still able to make the predictions about the earthquake events, the magnetopause reversals, the Martian dust storms, that come at the same time as the large solar flares. And then we use this information to track and pinpoint Black Star location out in the Leo constellation 2012, 13, 14, 15. Then it transitioned over into the Virgo constellation, and it has passed through there. I think I misspoke there. It was a transition of 2012 and 2013. So this is an ongoing investigation that actually emerged from the scripture investigation, and then the 9/11 investigation, and then the Dakota report got me into Project Blackstar, along with the discovery of the Elenin comet. And that's pretty much where you find me today. I'm a researcher, a truth seeker, kind of like yourself, and helped with, back in 2011 and 12, my research group, Terral's research group, was over 350 members. And we had 65 administrators, and we had astronomers, geologists, and astrophysicists, people from around the world all working together. And that was broken down. We actually made too much of a wave and discovered artificial intelligence, the connection between HARP and the nanomaterials that are inside of our bodies right now, how they're giving those things to us, and how it relates to the real world simulations in the underground city connected to the Denver airport. And so this is a really, really big story that we're talking about here. The bottom line for that was my research group was destroyed. People died. My lead astronomer was murdered, and along with members of my family. And that's why you see me pretty much riding shotgun. These days, pretty much by myself, a little small operation, one radio show a week, one little video a week, and we try to get the information out, but without making a big wave. Because once you are a threat to the Rothschild-owned Underground Arc City program, then you're going to be targeted for elimination. Is basically the way it works. If you go into the Dropbox folder, or you can get the Dead Astronomer Report by Stu Noodle. He was the European component of Michael Owens, my chief astronomer that was killed. Then he made a magnificent report on all the astronomers engaged in dark star imaging research that are missing or dead right now. That's one of the reasons I believe there are no pictures of the black star out there, is the technology was never developed because the people that would develop that were killed before they could by artificial intelligence that is actually keeping an eye on everything right now as we speak for the House of Rothschild. They are working with the Council on Foreign Relations. That's why the FBI moved their headquarters to Denver. That's why the Council on Foreign Relations New York chapter started the Denver chapter in 1938. That's why that's the hub of the Canamera, Mexico, the New World Order for this part of the country over here. That's why Denver is the capital of it. And that's where the real world simulation is running. So I know it's kind of complicated, but that's how I was brought into this investigation, to give you kind of an overview. And right now, what you're going to get from me is one video, like you're seeing there, and then one newsletter with my commentary, my Black Star Update report, and one radio show. We do a radio show, Black Star Thursday, on Revolution Radio every Thursday, 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And that's at freedomslips.com on Studio A, where you guys can catch me. And if you just have one newsletter, you can go down to the last page of the radio section with past radio shows. And this show right here will be a permanent link down in that section.
Great. Fantastic. So why don't we start with a little bit about the section of scripture and how you put some of those things together. I thought actually you just today on August 24th uploaded a wonderful overview of your research, and I recommend, and have a link below for everyone, but I recommend everybody go check that out. But the part where you have that matrix and you show how the pattern through scripture was one of the first things that pointed you towards this, I found that fascinating. Terrell, would you share that again?
Okay, I'm not sure exactly which aspect you're talking about. You mean the timeline, like from Noah to Abraham to?
Yep, that one.
Okay. Don't really know quite what to share with you.
Well, you had a matrix up just this morning that showed, basically the three major Abrahamic event, and it showed then it showed the Egyptian / event, and then it showed, how it kind of matches to today.
Okay, so I'd like to get some of those, because all those links are in the description box of that video.
Oh, okay. Well, let me go to that video.
Yeah. Let's just take. I think we have plenty of time.
Yeah. I can cut this part out. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah, right here. That's what you're talking about.
That one.
And let's go down to the description box right here. And I think you're talking about the timeline right here.
That one.
Yeah, this guy. So
all right, let's just restart so I have a place to cut. Mark it again. Okay. So this is the starting point in your journey was the scriptural study of this pattern. Please tell us more about it.
Okay. Well, whenever you look at where we are currently today, and you go back just about this 3,600 years, that's connected to the black star, its orbit period is what we're talking about. Then you have the events of Moses and Joshua, and with the earth stopping, you have earth changes, the sea dividing, things like that. You go back about 3,600 years before that, and you have where the planet appeared in the dark sky, as visible as the moon and the sun, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. You go back the same amount of time, and you get to the days of Noah and the great flood. And there's a pattern here. There's something that's happening. And whenever you go to Acts 3 and start at verse 22, well, first of all, in 21, you're going to hear about the restoration of all things. That's connected to Elijah. And then Peter quotes Moses saying that there's a prophet coming like me, and this is another person in this line, people that you're seeing right here. We are right now living in the days that Elijah comes to restore all things. This black star is going to come again in 3,600 years and fulfill the prophecies of Jesus Christ with the earthquakes, the volcanism, tsunamis, people fainting from fear of what's happening. The sun's going to turn dark. The moon's not going to give forth its light. Those things are going to happen on this cycle. The difference is the Earth is going to be in a different position in the solar system. So by connecting the dots between these events of Scripture and running the science, from the geology to the astrophysics to a lot of theoretical stuff that doesn't even hardly make sense, is binary star magnetic repulsion and things like that, then a pattern has emerged, and I'm convinced, 100% convinced, that this time, that period that we're in right now, these days that we're living in right now, is this thing that's coming from space, the thing that you're talking about, whether it's Nibiru or Planet X or Colobus or whatever, that this is the thing that is affecting our planet. It's causing the weakening magnetosphere, the rapid movement in our magnetic North Pole, mass animal deaths, the earthquakes, the earthquake pattern, and the volcanism. If you notice, when we had all the earthquakes in April, we had the gigantic volcanism at the same time because we were the nearest to the black star in April. And then since then, things have slowed down because we're moving away from it. Then to understand exactly how that works, you need to understand more about magnetic portal connections. And that's what this link is about right here. It's going to send you to NASA papers. It's about the seismic pattern, magnetic portal connections, and then this is the magnetopause reversal. So it's the Scripture part that got me started. So what led me, and I think from our conversation, you're kind of led in this way too, more from a scriptural perspective, and realizing, hey, there's something really happening here, and I need to be helping to be my own researcher, go out, water my own boots, and figure out what's going on and share that information with others.
That's exactly right. And our channel has only been one guy's journey with a lot of other people that are also on the same journey, trying to figure it out. We don't claim to know anything, but what you have put together, though, is this fascinating, basically nexus of all these different things, which three things. One, the biblical reference. Two, the reference to the 9/11, which you think is connected to all of this and the way that we're behaving on the earth right now.
Absolutely.
And then number three, you have a very good sense of what's happening, I think, right now from a variety of perspectives. Would you mind pulling up the solar system scope for a moment and just giving us your view of the orbital pattern? And I know you share this ad nauseum on your both your YouTube broadcasts.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, but again, Terral, you do such a great job explaining what your point of view is. And as you're explaining this, there's actually a couple questions that some folks that know that I was going to be with you today had too. So I'll ask you those as we move through it.
Okay. Okay, if you can see on the screen, right here is the Virgo constellation. The black star is transitioning from Virgo into Libra right now. We're trying to determine how far into Libra using the Earth changes. We've been tracking it since it was in the Leo constellation. If I change the dates, well, I can just take the Earth and move it. Well, this is not on today's date. My apologies. Because we're around on this side of the solar system. See the Libra constellation where the black star is. You see how we're making this 90-degree angle? Here in April, right here, we were between the two stars. It appears that the black star is at the feet of the Virgo constellation. The way it came in prograde fashion is way over back on this side. See the plane this way. This thing is going to be just below the ecliptic plane, not even 1 degree. And it originated way over on this side, and we've been tracking it. It's been moving across for the last 1,800 years since it was at its aphelion position on the far end of its orbit. And it's been coming prograde fashion. All the planets move this way. That's just all prograde means, is they're all moving in this direction. It's also moving in this direction. Now here's the deal. It's a little bit difficult to explain. It's not in your NASA textbooks. As this thing is getting closer to the sun, then it's changing its orbit path because it has a relationship with its binary twin, which is our sun, with mismatched magnetic polarity. Now that explains why the black star has been moving an average of 12 degrees left in the orbit diagram for the last decade. It's been moving 12 degrees each year as if it had a circular orbit, because this thing is transitioning from an elliptical orbit to a relative circular orbit is what it's doing. So as it's coming closer in, it moves in. The gravitational influence the force is growing by a square of the closing distance. Problem is, because of the mismatched polarity, the magnetic polarity, the repulsion strength is growing by more than the cube of the closing distance. If the sun was, if we were talking about two static magnets with the same force, then that would be the cube of the closing distance. Problem is, the sun is being drained of its electromagnetism. It's being drained of its energy across the entire electromagnetic spectrum by the black star. The black star is connected to the sun through a magnetic portal connection. And as it's getting closer, the magnetic polarity strength potential of the black star is increasing by greater than the cube of the closing distance, because as the sun is getting weaker, it's getting stronger. So this thing, the gravity pulls it in, and then the magnetic repulsion wants to repel it. And that is causing this orbit to transition into something more circular. And we believe that the circular orbit path is very near Venus orbit. And I think you were mentioning a little bit about Venus, how it is different than the other planets. It has a reverse rotation, and its day is extremely long. So this thing should be turning in prograde fashion like all the other planets, but it's been messed with. And I think it's been messed with repeatedly, because whenever the black star makes this transition to a circular orbit, then where it circles is very near Venus orbit path. So Venus has just about a 50% chance of being in the wrong place at the wrong time on each black star orbit cycle. The difference for Earth is the black star crosses Earth orbit path about the position that Earth is on May the 20th. And it leaves over here in late November. So that means there's two opportunities for Earth to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, while Venus has an opportunity about half the time. So that's why Venus is really, really screwed up. And the Earth has evidence. If you go to poleshifting.com, you'll see plenty of evidence that our Earth is actually tipped over before. The reason is because if the Earth is in the wrong place at the wrong time, then the sun, the black star, has the opportunity to wrestle magnetic polarity control of our planet away from the sun. It has to be in very near proximity, though, because the black star is smaller. But if the black star crosses at this key point and the Earth is there, that's when the pole shift happens. And I believe the sudden destruction of 1 Thessalonians 5 is connected to the crossing event that happens over here in the springtime. That's actually going to be in Earth position right here on May the 20th. This is where we've calculated it to be. Well, it's on the 19th, but it's real close. Because the way the orbit path is transitioning, then it's going to come in and cross there, and then it's going to go to Venus orbit path, and then it's going to leave again. So there's the opportunity for a fall crossing event, and I believe that's what Jesus Christ is explaining in Matthew 24. When the Earth is around in this position, then you have the opportunity to see the sun turn dark, because that happens when the black star gets right next to the sun. Doesn't happen when it crosses Earth orbit path. It's still too far away. But by the time it gets to Venus orbit path, it turns the sun dark for about 3 days. The difference for us is the Earth is around here in the spring. We have a crossing event. That means that the Earth suffers a geological pole shift, and 90% of the world population is killed. There's not a lot of people left to witness the sun turning dark. The people that can witness it are going to be those living in the underground arc cities. If you watch the movie 2012, it's pretty much the same story, except for instead of arc ships, they're running to underground arc cities. So this is the path that it's bringing in, that it's coming in. We are able to know where it is because of Earth's natural movement around the sun. Whenever we're between, like Fukushima happened, that was March 11th, 2012. March 11th, 2011, sorry. Right here in this position. So you can see that the Earth was between the sun and the Leo constellation right there. Then 1 year and 1 day later is the day of the magnetopause reversal, March 12th and 13th. 2012, right? Our predicted quake event happened on March the 20th. The reason that the magnetopause reversal event happened is because the black star, see if we can bring it in a little bit. The black star was in just about this position, and the Earth was moving between, let's say this is the black star where Jupiter is. The Earth was moving between the two. The magnetic portal connection from the black star to the Earth and the magnetic portal connection from the sun to the Earth were being dragged through the one running from the sun to the black star. Now, when that happens, you get magnetic portal connection convergence. And this portal-to-portal crossfiring creates these highly charged ionic clouds. These clouds are given directionality between the converging portals, and that's what caused the dust storm of March 12, 2012. That's what caused the magnetopause reversal of the same date. Move everything forward to April 2016, and the predictions were made for the same events to take place because Mars was in the same position, just like 2012. So Mars was behind Earth, just like this. The black stars out here, dust storms on Mars kicked off right on time. The magnetopause collapsed at the same time because the black star was directly behind them, right here. We just went through the Earth change lull period because we just moved away from the black star in natural orbit around the sun, where we are now. As the magnetic portal connection gets longer, the Earth changes go down because Earth core is cooling. Now we're in the position over here where we're in the headlights of the black star. So the recent earthquakes that you see are coming on time because the Earth change uptick period is now started. It's going to run all the way until we get to the end of November. This is the uptick period here on the solar system. This is the uptick period on the other side. This is the lull period, and this is another lull period that's going to begin after about December the 1st. So we already know these things in advance because we see the pattern, and it has to do with the way these magnetic portal connections are interacting and the way they're lengthening and the way they're shortening. So that's pretty much where we are in the solar system, and that's the explanation of where it came from and where it's going to return to, which is actually going to be back around in this direction. Its origination point is going to be somewhere near Orion, actually. It's going to be down between Taurus and Orion is where it's going to originate.
Well, let me cut to the chase with a question I know that's probably on the minds of a lot of our audience, which is we've seen a movement in Mars. We haven't confirmed it yet, but we've heard, rumor, I guess would be the way to put it, is that there was actually a 6-degree variation between Mars' regular orbit path and where it is now. And then just today, we were starting to see some evidence that Venus might be affected right now. If these inner solar system planets are being actually tugged at, if that's true, would that indicate that we're actually close to the actual crossing?
I think that you're going to find out Mars is in the right place, and Venus is in the right place too.
Okay.
Okay, here's the problem. This black star is not a traditional object. It is not a naturally created object in our solar system. For example, like our sun, main sequence star. It was created from the condensing dust cloud into a solar disk, where the heavy gravitational spots are. The condensation happened again, create the gravity well for Jupiter, Saturn. That's how this place was created. However, there was a binary twin that was much larger. This black star is a remnant body from the imploding binary twin. So whenever it went supernova, then it created this thing. It is not a neutron star. It's not a black dwarf star. It's something in between. It sits down deep, deep inside of a gravity well, very much like a black hole. The difference is this thing's going to be 3 to 5 kilometers in diameter rather than the gravity well going down into a singularity. That's the difference. But the similarity is that there's an event horizon around the top where, let's see, how do you describe it? There's an event horizon. Things on the inside are pulled in. Things on the outside are not affected very much. This thing is nudging objects in our solar system. That's why, if you saw my report earlier, that we're seeing a sharp uptick of more than 4,000 fireball reports last year. And there was less than 500 in 2005.
So you think that might be a debris field associated with the dark star?
No, I think it's just a ping pong effect from an interloper in the inner solar system. The asteroid belt is comprised of these objects that are extremely far apart. It's not like this thing's going to bring in and create a debris trail from, these objects. That I really don't expect that that's going to happen, or I don't even expect that's part of the scenario at all. And looking for planets to be affected by it, they would have to be right next to this black star. This thing is very small. So if it was a neutron star and it was only 10 kilometers across, it would be twice the mass of our sun. If it was a black dwarf star that was 50% larger than our planet, it would be half the mass of our sun. This thing is likely closer to being a neutron type star, but it's not going to be 10 kilometers in diameter. It's going to be something that's smaller. And the event horizon is the way it changes space-time, the way that it affects things in its environment. It does not, if you look at a model of a black hole, you're going to notice things outside the event horizon are not affected very much at all. It might cause a little wobble, but it creates this distortion in the entire field of space. So it's very difficult to detect if you're an observer from inside of it. You see what I mean? Because everything is moving gradually, and then it wobbles one way and it wobbles back to where it was supposed to be. So this thing is not going to give us that type of warning. And I did send my information to Don, our project astronomer, and I think he's going to verify. You can observe Mars right now. He can go out, turn on his observatory telescope, and he's going to be able to tell you it's right where it's supposed to be. I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen with that situation. But there was news that Venus's rotation was slowing. I still don't see how the black star is going to do that kind of thing. I think people are overly sensitized, and they haven't really looked a lot into the science and into what's really going on out there. And NASA hasn't opened the book on a lot of what's going on out there either. There's for example, red dwarf stars are the most common star. 70, 80% of the stars in the Milky Way galaxy are red dwarf stars, and you can't see any of them. So the visible spectrum is very small. And the first brown dwarf star was discovered in 1995. Nobody's ever seen a black dwarf star. Our solar system is not old enough yet, because these are transitional dwarfs, so they shed their outer skin. So a white dwarf is going to transition into a brown, transition into a black, but it requires billions of years in order to do that. So this is not a naturally forming star, and that's going to be the problem. And it's the very makeup, the characteristics of this thing that make it so that you cannot observe it. You can't see it. Microlensing, the gravitational lensing effect. So you can see planets, you can see stars behind the sun using the gravitational lensing effect in the right telescope because of the way it bends the light. The way that this black star bends the light, you're going to see and microlensing is perfected, you're going to see the stars in the distance, and you're going to see no evidence of the dancing of the stars, the microlensing. So it's my view, and it's Don, our astronomer, he's been on the project for quite some time. We know where the black star is. He has observatory class telescope. He knows the best time to go looking, which is in March, April, and May. And he can go out on a clear night, look, and he cannot see the black star, and he cannot see any sign of the microlensing, gravitational lensing effect that I'm describing here, which means there is no way you're going to capture a picture of it in the visible spectrum using a camera. It's just impossible to do that.
Fair enough. But that brings up another question, though. Do you think that this dark star, as you described, this something between a black hole and a neutron star thing,
absolutely,
could it possibly have planets orbiting it?
It's possible, but I don't have any evidence of that. We're tracking the gravitational anomaly, the magnetic anomaly. It's like the hub of it may be a mini solar system. There are also skews in the data. It's not symmetrical like it should be. Our near side alignment events happen early. The backside alignments happen late. It could be that it's planetary alignments, these orbital alignments that are coming into the picture. We don't know. We don't have enough data to be able to make a case for anything like that. There are no observations. So we're going with what we can prove. I'm actually very slow to draw conclusions on this kind of thing. I have to have a lot of data before I'm going to step out on the limb and start drawing conclusions about it. There's just simply not enough data to conclude that there are orbitals that are coming in with this thing.
Okay, fair enough. But so what would you want to, what would be the kind of closing thought or main thing you'd like, the people that are interested in this subject to know?
About project?
The event, what's going on, yeah.
The earth changes, monitoring the earth changes. If you read the scriptures, it's the destruction comes suddenly like the birth pangs upon a woman with child. the earthquakes, these patterns that are in the seismic pattern, these are the birth pangs. The children of the day, the sons of the light, they're the ones that we can see and make these connections. This is a spiritual thing that we're doing here. We know that there's something coming, but this thing is coming like a thief in the night. It's coming like a ghost, and we cannot visibly see it with our eyes. But this is not something that you have to take on faith either, not faith alone, because the science does support what's going on here. Mm-hmm. We're looking at the sun. That is, the coronal holes are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's turning darker and darker. The scientists are saying that we're going into a mini ice age because we have a Maunder minimum that's happening, this grand minimum that supposedly we're going into, which is not the truth. The truth is the black star siphoning the electromagnetism from the sun and redirecting it. That's why 2014 was the hottest year on record. 2015 beat that. 2016 beat that. And 2017 will be the hottest year in recorded history. At the same time, Jupiter's core is liquefying. Jupiter is becoming a better witness in this case, because if you're following along, you'll notice the black star moved only 3 degrees left in the orbit diagram. Jupiter moves 30 degrees per year. Jupiter's closing in on black star position, and that's why they sent the Juno probe there. That's why Jupiter's core is liquefying too, because the core made up of ethane, methane, methanes. These thanes, they transition from solid directly into gas. Those gases go up into the upper atmosphere, and then we can see them. That's the reason the spot is now opaque, and that's why Jupiter is becoming brighter and hotter. So global warming for Jupiter, and guess what? All the planets, because the black star is redirecting the sun's energy to those planets through a secondary set of magnetic portal connections. So the same amount of energy is in the inner solar system, but the planets that are nearest the black star are getting the most of that. So we're seeing temperature rises, especially here on Earth and in Jupiter, and the planets that are on the near side of the solar system to the black star. So it is scripture and it is science. They're both saying the exact same thing. I think that's the most important message here.
Okay. So great. Well, thank you for being on our show today. We really appreciate it. My friend Wayne Steiger just joined on. Hi, Wayne.
You know how it is.
Hello, Wayne.
Hello, Terral. How are you doing?
Great. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. I'm sorry I missed this. I really was looking forward to having the opportunity to talk to you.
Are we out of time? There's some reason that we need
No,
to go?
we're not out of time at all.
You can ask away, Wayne. Ask away.
No, like I said, I told Steve when I looked at your models, it's obvious that you have spent time developing, I'm assuming probably an algorithm that you've built on your data points. And as I told Steve, I was curious to see what the reliability factor is on the predictive scale. Very detailed charts in one of your videos. So very impressive system.
Right. Yeah, we're tracking the Earth changes. It doesn't. You notice there's red values in there in some places.
Yes.
Because whenever the modeling is off, then I'm pointing that out. Whenever the black star made the slower move left in the orbit diagram, we went into our low period too early. So we had seismic values for week 13, 14, and 15, which are usually our biggest weeks of the year, that were extremely low. So the red values show up there. And so whenever there's a reset in the tectonics of our planet, that happened after the 8.3 Chile quake last year, that was week 34, then we had no 6 magnitude earthquakes on our planet for 5 weeks. So those are indicators, and you got red values all there. It's indication that there's a giant shift. We saw the same kind of tectonic shift in the Pacific Ocean after the February 6th Solomon Island quake event, cracked the tectonic plate in two. That created a tectonic cascade because extra space created in the Pacific Ocean tectonic dynamic and the matrix. And that is what began a new line of earthquakes from Texas up through Seattle, pointing to Cascadia. So it's actually, if you listen to Dutch Sense, he says the pressures are increasing there. The pressure between the tectonic plates is reducing because of everything is moving towards the Solomon Islands, away from the North American craton there. That's creating the opportunity for slippage. Not only that, whenever you look at from satellite down from space, then you can see the magnetic anomalies caused as more of the stuff underneath, the magma is exposed. Then it changes the magnetics of the entire USA. If you Google the report, the Grim report from Russia, 2014, then you'll see what they're talking about. And that's why the big one is forecasted for Cascadia, for example. So the seismic pattern, extremely important that we watch that. I'm going to focus more and more on that than on anything that's visual. Things that are visual, they can be faked.
Yep.
And I'm convinced that it can't be, I've criticized Steve a little bit, and I actually subscribed to your channel about 6 months ago, I think. And then one of my subscribers said, hey, what about this video? What about this video? And I saw a lot of lens flares and things like that. And so I had to unsubscribe to that. And I've been a little bit of a critic, but I know that Steve's heart's in the right place. I know that he's trying to wake people up. I know that he wants to lead people down the right path. And eventually, I think our paths are going to be pretty much parallel, going the same direction. Once he gets up to speed on a lot more of the science, what's going on, then you understand why you can't see it, why the prophecies predict that the destruction would come suddenly. If we had pictures of these things and we could warn people the destruction wouldn't come suddenly, everybody would know.
Yeah, you're right.
And the elite plan to go underground wouldn't work. So they're counting on this. They're counting on disinformation throughout the internet. So people are digging rabbit holes everywhere. So they never really can sit down and understand what the truth is, what's happening all around us.
And I'm totally in agreement with you on it's the magnetics. It's the magnetic fields, the anomalies that we begin to see here that, in my personal belief, is how you're going to see this. And I have to admit, I'm not that versed on the dark star. So I have a little bit of catching up to do on my own. But I like the fact that we have to look at the science and understanding as well as science is ever evolving. And I just came to the conclusion just here recently, not even knowing about your channel, that we're going to see this by its magnetic signature. And I don't need to see something in the sky. I don't need to necessarily see a satellite picture, but I can tell you this, if it's impacting us, the Earth, in its magnetosphere, and that's having an impact on our star, what else can it be, right?
Right. Whenever you rule out everything else, then
Oxman's razor. I mean, that's what it is.
That's exactly right. So you'd have to have something that fits the criteria that can turn Earth's magnetosphere around for 28 hours.
Yes, sir.
And you also place it in the Leo constellation on March 12, 2012. Then you look for the same symptoms in April 2016 because Mars is in the same position relative to the Sun and the Earth. Did you have Martian dust storms? Did you have the magnetopause collapse? Did you have the solar flaring? Yes, you had them all. And they're all predicted in advance. So it's having a baseline of information, a database, so that you can project and then just watch as these dominoes fall, as these things come true. So that's what we're trying to do with Project Black Star, and it's working. It's definitely working, but you should realize the modeling is going to break down. Eventually, these are going to be all red letters in my chart.
Sure.
Because there's nothing that's happened over the last decade that's going to be the same as when the destruction comes.
Therefore, you're basing.
Yeah, the most fascinating thing that I'm really biting on today is, like, relativity. The theory of relativity is going to kick in, and when you talk about the time-space continuum and the distortion of those patterns and things like that, could you just share a little bit more? What will we even be able to perceive those changes from inside of it? Is that what you're saying? We won't even be able to perceive it until it's too late?
Well, the difference for somebody like you have to realize you're talking to people of many different dispensations here. You have 6-day people, you have 7th-day people. You have people that are created and people that are evolved. And it's not the same. You notice there's a heaven, there's a highest heaven, right?
Yeah.
There's a heaven of Genesis 1:1. There's another one in Genesis 1:8. You are connected to the one of Genesis 1:1, like me. The Chinese, the American Indians, the Aborigines, the races that are basically beardless, they have Rh positive blood exclusively. They're connected to heaven of Genesis 1:8, like all the animals, everything else here. You're not. You're connected to heaven of Genesis 1:1. We're here for a different reason. We're here to be judged for the Satanic Rebellion. That's what we're here for. So to try to give a general answer for everybody is not going to work. If you notice, Paul writes about how you are caught up to meet the Lord in the air in 1 Thessalonians 4 at the end of the chapter. The destruction comes in 1 Thessalonians 5. You're not even going to be here. I'm not going to be here either. The people that are left are going to be the unbelievers.
And I think it's going to be a rocking and a shaking.
Right. But we see the signs,
Yeah.
and we acknowledge that, and our reward is waiting for us in the next realm, where we are standing right now, by the way. Whenever we put down these clothes here, we're going to realize we've been there all along, and that this life is taking place within the flash of an instant of that reality. So all that stuff is described in my book, The Mystery Explained, the different realms, the infinite realm where we come from, the heaven realm in between, and then this earth realm that we're in right now. Spirit, blood, and water, the three witnesses of Scripture. That's probably the most important thing that you're going to be taking back with you to heaven. That's the way heaven is laid out. New Jerusalem's laid out that way. The Bible's laid out that way. And it's what we're looking at is two overlapping circles. And New Jerusalem is the same exact pattern with these walls that represent the veils of the tabernacle. It's really, really interesting. It is explained in my book, The Mystery Explained, for those that are interested in the 6-day people and the different races and things like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then also you can probably get access to that through the Terral03.com website, right?
Yes, there's a free link to the book there, to all the books. You can just about get everything for free from me. The thing you can't get is my time writing me emails, like David that I made that video for. He's a subscriber to my newsletter. It's only $25 per year. So he writes me and he says, will you make a video? So I make a video. So if you're writing me a comment from YouTube, you're not going to get that kind of treatment. So when you want me to be your tutor in Christ, you want me to be your threat assessment contingency planner, help you know what a safe zone is and where to be when this stuff happens, that's $25 per year. And then I'm on the hook to answer all your questions for a year. So I think it's a really good deal.
Yeah.
People, it keeps me busy.
It does.
Sometimes 3 or 4 in the afternoon before I get everybody done for the day.
It keeps you young, though.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I get a lot when other subscribers and other researchers talk about you, Terrell, is that you obviously are very intelligent, obviously above average IQ, et cetera, et cetera. But the question is, how can he be so certain of his data? Everybody's like, it just seems like he's so certain. It doesn't that doesn't jive well sometimes with folks. At the same time, I actually feel that it's more confidence than anything else, that you're confident in your data. But could you give us a little background why you're so confident in your tracking data?
The predictions keep coming true. This investigation started in January of 2011. We had enough information to make the prediction about Fukushima within 4 days, whenever it happened. I was in this travel trailer. I've been living in this travel trailer since 2009. And it was parked in North Carolina, across from Patriotic Space Mike. At the time, he was the biggest personality at Revolution Radio. And when Fukushima happened, I was asleep in his front yard in my travel trailer. So I was able to make the prediction the next year for Guerrero, the Martian dust storms from this April, magnetopause collapse from this April, using the baseline data from 2012. When you gather enough information like that, and you're able to project, to build the modeling for the future, and it keeps coming true, then you're going to be very confident too. And especially whenever my background is Scripture and it's supporting everything that I believe in Scripture. Other than that, then I'm pretty much a confident person, pretty good hitter in baseball, pretty good at sports, pretty good at school, could always make straight A's and stuff. So it's maybe some of that is bleeding through a little bit, but that's a criticism that I've heard before. You just seem just like a little bit too much. You should say this is your opinion, rather than saying, what I'm doing is using the science and I'm telling you what happened previously and what should happen in the future. And then when it happens again. But I'm also wrong sometimes too. I didn't foresee these recent 7 magnitude quakes that are about to happen, because in the previous years, they didn't happen until week 34 and week 40. 2014 was week 40 before we had another 7. I mean, these 2 that came in week 25 and 27, that happened exactly the same way last year, exactly the same way. So I made the prediction. But now we're getting these new series of quakes that really doesn't make me wrong. It just means the pattern's changing.
Yes.
So my job is, that's what science is. It's about trial and error. Build the predictive model. When it's wrong, then you make the adjustment. So it's kind of like, even though I'm going to be wobbled here and there and criticized here and there, that I'm pretty sturdy on my feet. I think that's kind of what they feel. And after Solomon Island and my data was all wrong, then I had to go and reformulate my hypotheses. that there was something happening I didn't understand. And that happens in any investigation, especially one with this many variables, this much science.
Yes,
It's going to happen.
Unknowns.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you're dedicated, I mean, that scripture, imagine how hard that was to figure out the three witnesses of scripture. And it took decades to do it, but sticking with it got me to the finish line. Same thing with the 9/11 inside job. And if you're not going to read the whole book, I strongly recommend looking at chapter 12, the 100-point timeline. It has activated links about 9/11. Chronological order, the top 100 events in chronological order that they happen. And then you can start seeing the picture of what really happened on 9/11. But timelines, keyword analysis, and things like that, I really love. And like you said, pretty smart. So I'm pretty confident. And some of that bleeds through. And we get criticized for that sometimes, but you got to be yourself.
Hey, I agree too. And again, I'm not being critical. I like it when people are confident in their data, and it makes me feel more confident in looking at what you're doing. So actually, the confidence affects me in a positive way. It doesn't affect me in a negative way. But some people talk about it. But let's talk about 9/11 and big picture. I think most people by now within the truther community are kind of aware of that was an inside job. You were one of the early adopters of that theory, and earlier investigators are coming out all over the place now talking about that. But why do you think 9/11 and the arrival of the dark star are tied together?
Okay. Well, I was going to pull up the document and go through the timeline if you wanted to do that. What we're going to have to look at instead is, let me see, is the best way to do this. Dakota report. The Dakota report, CIT boys have it on their as a file. It should be right here. I think I'm running a little bit slower. Here we go, right here. And when I was doing this back in 2012, I looked and looked, and there was not a copy of this anywhere. Now we have access to it. So this Dakota report was released by lettered agency operatives seeking a type of amnesty from the American people, as if they're giving more information and now we're going to come clean and things like that, which didn't happen. And when I did the research, then they really didn't release very much new stuff. I guess my system's running really slow. It'll take a second, but what I'm going to do is take you to the operations section of the Dakota report, and then you're going to see the references that I read concerning Project Blackstar.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And see, this was not Project Blackstar until 2012. And that was after, like I said, if you go to the Rinse network, you've heard of the Rinse radio network. If you go to Jim Mars, this guy, I was friends with him for quite a while. And he gets 60 radio show offers a week, and he turns them down. They talked him in to doing his own radio series, and I had interviewed him. He thought a lot of my book, and they said, well, who do you want to interview first for your first radio show? Go all the way down to the bottom of his radio shows, and you'll see my show. I believe it was October 12th, 2011. It was 2011 or 2012. And so we were sharing documentation back and forth. And I think it's because of this. My system usually runs a lot quicker.
Oh, listen, this is normal.
Okay.
You're in the vortex.
Okay, here's the...
Welcome to the twilight.
Yeah, the operations section, and maybe we can zoom in a little bit on it. Whenever you read this operations section of the Dakota report, then you're going to see right at the top here, in this report, the terms NGB 21 in government will be used interchangeably. The purpose of this report is to prevent the execution of Project Blackstar. Operations listed here are considered necessary for its execution. Project Blackstar culminates in the termination of a large percentage of the population. Just keep on reading.
What?
Yeah, the following is a summarized list of the most important operations leading up to Project Blackstar. We are willing to share a summary of some of the more important operations, but they are too detailed and complex to fully express via paper medium. When you get into this, you're going to see a lot of the
Whoa.
Operations that are going on right now with Cascadia Rising, with Jade Helm 15, these war game exercises that they're doing, the release of the contagion, now the Zika virus after the H1N1. There's going to be the release of a contagion that is going to limit our mobility. That's going to happen. It's going to happen 60 to 90 days before the Black Star gets here. It's part of the fail-safe plan of the elite running out of that Denver op that I was telling you about. This is exposing a lot of their stuff, but you're not going to get a lot of the details here. One of the problems with Project Black Star and researching it is it is under the cover of a spy plane op too. There's a spy plane operation, Project Black Star, and you're going to get a lot of bad information from that. It's kind of difficult, but this has been my focus since, like I said, 2011, and switched gears in 2012 once I understood more about what's going on with this report right here. That made the connection for me.
The Operation Ghost Hunter, did you read the specifications underneath that? Isn't that wild?
You might be able to do a show just on,
holy crap.
Yeah, what's going on down here, and it's going to make a lot of sense that they want Hillary inside, because she is part of the CIA black op that they ran in Benghazi. They had to get Stevens out of the way because he was going to expose the gun running for ISIS that was being trained in Jordan by our CIA and our DOD and Obama. That's why he pulled all the troops out. So his B team, that's why I called him the B team, because that's his B team. After our CIA and our military, they swooped in, and now you've got migrations of illegals, that's what I call them, running out through Europe like we do here in the United States. This is part of what they need. They need the gangs. They need the chaos.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So 9/11 was this really the precursor to begin to cover the ops up on this. Let me ask you something. I'm just really going off on this. So when Greensburg testified before the Senate Banking Committee, Alan Greenberg, you remember him? Greenspan, excuse me.
Yeah.
It was pointed out, and I don't remember if it was Senator Shelby or not, but one of the senators pointed out that there was a little over, he estimated to be approximately $7 trillion missing. And Alan Greenspan said, I won't answer that question and I won't address it. I'm asking you, and this is all hypothetical. So in order to pull off an operation like this is very expensive. Do you think that the money connection is in tie of pulling this off? And where do you think we are now in this operational timeline?
Which operation are you talking about?
Let's talk about the Operation Dark Star, and then we go down to Operation Ghost Hunter going in.
Yeah. Well, as far as Project Black Star, most of what you're seeing that's going on with these exercises are sleeper operations. That's what I call them. In other words, there's the elite are going to the underground arc cities, but many of the lettered agency people, the military, our government, they're not going. So what do you do if you're the House of Rothschild and you are making a plan for the elite? You create these exercises.
Yeah.
These exercises are to orient and train them to run into harm's way. So whenever they release the contagion, whenever they shut down the power grids and your bank cards don't work, and there's chaos in the streets after about 3 days, these are the people that are going to be coming towards us. Because the idea is they're going to neutralize both threats at the same time. The system is not going to collapse. The House of Rothschild holds all the cards. He is not going to collapse the system because he cannot know how large the Black Star threats are. He doesn't need to create another threat. If you're fighting on a front, you do not create additional threats. That's why your gas is $2 a gallon, and that's why your silver is still under $20. Because whenever those things start going up, then it's going to start causing a panic. When silver gets around 47.50, JP Morgan doesn't cover the silver short position anymore, then you're going to see panic. People jumping out of windows and stuff like that. But we're not nearly to that point yet. Watch silver as an indicator right there, and just your regular commodity prices.
That's why you've always said that silver was actually an indicator of its approach, right?
Absolutely. And knowing who owns the silver short position inherited from Bear Stearns. So the collapse really happened. It's already happened. Yeah. Remember whenever it was Paulson and Bernanke, was Paulson and Bernanke. They came out September 18th, 2008 with
I
that three pages that started TARP 1.
Yeah.
All that money was being shifted. You just heard a little bit about the money being shifted. That's when the system collapsed.
Yeah.
There. The physical collapse didn't happen until March 2009. Everything's been running on paper ever since.
Well, that's the great illusion, is that we never got out of the Depression. It's only getting worse. And
it's being supported by the House of Rothschild. The silver short position is being supported out of the back door of the Fed, just like the central banks around the planet are being supported by it. So it's a grand illusion that they're playing. Your money's really not worth anything. It's all based on confidence. And that's one of the reasons they have that silver short position in play, because they want to make it look like that the dollar's worth something when it's actually worthless already.
I agree.
Because our debt is really more than $200 trillion in the United States.
Yep.
Way more than that. Unfunded liabilities, which now they're faking, was well over 130 million 2 years ago.
Well, I personally
130 trillion.
Well, and I agree. And by the way, that's why I think that the open border policy is to purposely strain the system, that it is absolutely when it breaks. But my background is in payment. There is already a backup plan, and the system is going to break. You're absolutely spot on, but it's not going to collapse the way that I think the doomsayers are saying. They got another plan.
It's going to collapse when Rothschild says so.
Exactly.
The illegal alien invasion is a part of a worker displacement agenda in the United States to displace Americans from their jobs, from their income, from their houses, and bringing in foreign nationals. So you have 3.5 million foreign nationals coming into our country legally every year from guest worker programs and from legal immigration. That doesn't count. There's really somewhere between 30 and 50 million illegals.
You know what the big problem in Silicon Valley is right now? And here's the god-awful truth. You'll talk to the, let's say, U.S. citizens. They're training foreigners to do their job.
Right.
And Google and Apple and the rest of them are exiting workers out and replacing them. That's why Mark Zuckerberg is behind this over borders process. And you know, at some point in time, I hope the people of this country start waking up to what's going on.
They're not going to wake up.
No, I think you're probably right.
It's either going to be revolution or bend over and take your medicine, and there's nothing in the middle. And we need a George Washington.
Yeah.
And we don't have it. We're over-fluoridated. We got a remote control and a beer in each hand, and we're staying entertained.
Whoever realized that Dr. Strangelove was merely a foretelling of the future?
Yeah, that's the...
That's seriously.
I think I have to enable something here. Yeah, I don't expect there's going to be a revolution. The worker displacement agenda is coming out of Denver, the CFR, and it's not going to change. You can change everybody in Washington, D.C. That's a puppet government.
Well,
it's not going to change anything.
I live in Denver, so our economy here is absolutely booming. There's a housing shortage, and we know why. We know why and for what purpose. But Terral, I tell you, man, I appreciate the time you've allowed me to have with you.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it again.
Subscriber. I think you just got yourself a new subscriber.
Yeah,
great. Yeah, you go to
and I think that, and again, we absolutely enjoy, talking, discussing, listening to critique. We have no problems with any of that. All we want is the truth, and you're helping us to move in that direction, everybody. And if you want more of Terral's information, everybody, again, it's www.terral.com. There'll be a link below, and you can check out more of the stuff. But we'll have you back, Terral, very soon, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm happy to help you anytime.
Right on, man. Thanks.